the sort of view of pre-drinks is you get very, very drunk before you leave, so you don't have to buy many out. But then actually that just ends up being you get very, very drunk and then you don't stay out for very long. So it is quite excessive.
Okay, and that's always the motivation, the intention is to get very, very drunk. It's not like you wouldn't go out on a night out and just kind of have a couple. It's to get drunk.
It sounds awful.
Yeah. But that is your intention.
When you're talking about young people, certainly the people we were talking to yesterday, they're not drinking to enjoy the taste. Their goal was to go out and get absolutely hammered. I know I was like that when I was 18. I've always, when I drank, I was always like that. I drank to get absolutely blotto. But I think maybe I expected at least some of them to say that they were drinking, just because they quite liked, to sort of be sociable or what. But it was definitely like, not just to get a little bit drunk, but to get really hammered. And that seemed to be such a kind of common thing amongst them. I suppose I did find that quite surprising and a bit shocking.
The amount that's being consumed just at pre-drinks, for example, is huge, and I know it's the same with most students.
And the preloading thing, that's like just a thing that everybody does these days.
Yeah,
that's just so money,
bit of a
just
party
to save
at
money.
home,
It's like you always do that. And what time do you go out? Like, what time do you start drinking? What time do you actually leave the house?
I think there's a kind of getting ready period. So there's a pre-drinks, which is starting around 9 o'clock when you're getting ready, and then 10 o'clock. You have people come round to your house, you'll go to a house party, and then they'll be drinking there until 11 midnight, and then you kind of get a taxi down to wherever you plan to go, and it kind of starts from there. So it's a pretty prolonged kind of thing. And what is happening now is clubs start to stay open later, so kind of 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever. It turns into really long, prolonged drinking sessions.
Yeah.
Vodka drinker. Probably more vodka. It's cheaper.
Yeah, it's cheaper.
And so do you kind of concentrate all your drinking at home before you go out, or is it something you just get a few down your neck before you go out, so that
really
you're at a level? And then
it's very dependent on expense. Obviously, the sort of view of pre-drinks is you get very, very drunk before you leave, so you don't have to buy many out. But then actually that just ends up being you get very, very drunk and then you don't stay out for very long. So it is quite excessive.
Okay, and that's always the motivation, the intention is to get very, very drunk. It's not like you wouldn't go out on a night out and just kind of have a couple. It's to get drunk.
It sounds awful.
But that is your intention.
And I think the thing that surprised me mostly about it, that's definitely a new thing, is the fact that it's predominantly vodka and gin that people are drinking. So it's maximum booze for minimum cost, biggest hit, for the least money. We used to drink after hours. We didn't used to preload. We'd go to the pub, have a few beers. We'd be having such a good time. We'd kind of get carry-outs and take them home from the pub and then carry on drinking when we got home. But we didn't buy in the booze before we went out, so we were plastered before we even left the house. And I think that was what was quite disturbing, really, that young people today, that seems to be absolutely the norm, that you buy in not just booze, beer or wine, but vodka and gin, hardcore spirits, and get really drunk before you've even left the house.
It's one of them things, like with just sexual assault in general, it's so underreported because women feel like they can't speak out about it because it's so common, it's weirdly not accepted.
And is that heightened because of the alcohol involved, do you think? Because when you wake up in the morning, you're a bit like, well, I was drinking and everybody else was drinking and it's all a bit hazy.
Yeah, definitely. And it's dark a lot of the time. Yeah. So most of the time when it happens, if someone just touches your bum or something, you can't tell who it was, and you're just like.
Sexual assault, sexual harassment, drinks being spiked. You know, a couple of the female students we talked to said it was virtually expected. You know, you go out now as a young woman and you will get groped or, you know, unwanted sexual attention in bars and clubs. And it is a dangerous situation to put yourself in if you're drinking so much you can barely stand. But the adverts are absolutely the opposite of that, and they're very, very persuasive, and they tap into this, especially with students, I think, who are going away from home and wanting to fit in. They're wanting to be, there's a pressure, I think. You go away to university and you want it to be the time of your life. You want it to be this amazing experience where you're going to make the best friends and you're going to meet, you know, perhaps your future husband or wife, and you want it to be this brilliant thing. And so when you look at those alcohol adverts, they're really tapping into that desire to be accepted, to be attractive, to have fun, to let your hair down, and to do it all in a really glamorous way. But then you kind of compare that with your average student bar. It's not really how it kind of turns out for a lot of people. Well, I'm not sure if we spoke to, if we just had like a particularly heavy drinking cohort that we happened to speak to yesterday, but we read in the papers all the time about how, and the alcohol industry loves getting this message out, that younger people are drinking less. You know, it's the older people who are still drinking, but you know, it's great news for the future because younger people are drinking less and it's all happy days. But actually that's not the impression I got yesterday. To me, it seems that, well, they all said that most people drink, and most people drink to get absolutely hammered. It's not something, I think from the impression I got yesterday, that's something that is declining in popularity. And I wonder, you know, if it's that, the kind of cultural norms surrounding going away to university that are just so entrenched in people's thinking as a teenager or even a kid, you know, that as they grow up it's just that expected rite of passage that you go away to university and you're going to drink loads, that by the time people get there it's just an unthinking process. I didn't get an impression yesterday that people are more responsible. Probably I got an impression that they were less responsible, in that they were drinking bottles of vodka and gin before they'd even left the house.